Imagine your mix in a box. You can place the elements of your mix anywhere in that 3D space. You can emphasize elements by bringing them forward or de-emphasize them by pushing them back. You can sculpt out space for your instruments top to bottom or by moving them around side to side. The Z-axis is how close or how far an instrument is from the listener. Now, volume is the obvious way to do this, but you can also wash elements to the back and de-emphasize them with reverb. The X-axis is how you pan your instruments, where you place them in the stereo spectrum. The Y-axis is frequency, how they fit together vertically. You can use EQ to sculpt out room for your instruments so they blend and not compete. Let's see some of these concepts in action. I created summing track stacks for the flutes, the clarinets, and the horns, and I've hidden all the other instruments so that we can focus on these three. Let's look at some ways that we can blend these instruments together. Now, certainly volume is the big one. If I want to de-emphasize the French horn, I could certainly just turn it down. Or if the flutes and clarinets are too loud, I can turn them down. But as I was mentioning earlier, you can push something to the back by adding more reverb to it. So on the flutes and clarinets, I'm going to send them through bus 1 to our reverb aux track, and I will crank up the reverb send amount. By applying more reverb, you sort of soften the perceived location of where an instrument is, and that helps de-emphasize it as well. When you're balancing out the volume of all your tracks, turn tracks down before you turn tracks up. And the reason is because all these tracks are sitting at 0, which is called unity gain. And what that means is the volume level that's passing into those tracks is passing right back out again with no attenuation, either positive or negative. When you turn up a track by increasing the gain, you could potentially have problems with clipping later down in the signal flow, or perhaps even on this track. If I want the French horn to be louder, I can create the same perceived effect by turning down the other tracks around it. So I can make the French horn louder by turning down the flutes and the clarinets. When you're thinking about your mix, think about what the focal point is, what the most important instrument is in any given section of the mix, and then you can take the other instruments as the supporting cast and balance them down around that one. EQ is short for equalization, and equalization is volume control of different frequencies. You can boost up the mids, you can cut the low end or the high end on a track, and you can really sculpt out a space for your various instruments. I'm going to open up an EQ plugin for the flutes and for the clarinets. Here are two channel EQ plugins side by side, one for the flutes and one for the clarinets. And we're going to listen to what it sounds like when we carve out some space for these individual instrument sections. This plugin in Logic has a built-in analyzer, which when you're just starting out with working with an EQ plugin, it's really helpful. This will give you a visual representation of the frequencies that are played on that track. So these instruments occupy similar frequencies in between 250 and 750 hertz. So one thing I could do is take the flutes, give them a little bit of a boost, maybe around 1 kilohertz. While cutting the clarinets in that same section, just subtly. And maybe I want to give the clarinets a boost. A little bit lower, around 500 hertz. And I could even cut the flutes in that section. So again, EQ is a sculpting tool to carve out space for your different instruments. So let's see if this gives a little bit more separation between those two instrument groupings. Again, with those plugins turned off, here's how it was originally. And I'll turn them on and play it one last time. Pay attention to see if you can hear them stand out a little bit more.